One. All right.
Hey,
Sahil.
hey.
Fun fact: the first video that I ever put out on Farcaster, it was just an introduction about myself, and I said, shout out to Sahil. Would love to get you on the show because I gave Cura a shout out,
Wow,
and so here we are. Finally, it didn't take
appreciate
much
it.
much time, but yeah, we're here.
I'm glad, appreciate it, and I think you are relatively new to Farcaster, but the value that you provided, or kind of, I see you so often on my feed and weighing in on so many different conversations and topics. I think that's great. So glad to be talking. I know you have a lot of alignment and shared interests on how you see the Farcaster ecosystem growing. Great to be chatting with you, Jeff.
No, thank you, Sahil. I know times are very tight. It's everyone's so busy. So to get a couple of minutes with you, if we can fit in 45 minutes, if we can extend a little bit, I think that's plenty of time to just touch on a little bit about yourself, a little bit about Cura, a little bit about what we see in terms of the direction of Farcaster going with channels. And at the end of the day, like what we're really looking for in the space. So really excited to dive into it. And maybe we can start by just talking about some of the things that you're recently discovering with Cura and some of the implementations that are now occurring.
Yeah. Let's do it. Let's do it. I think it's super exciting to be building on Farcaster, to be building with folks who believe in crypto social. So I think here's a fun fact. Maybe this is a good kind of starting point. Is I built my first company back in 2012, and it was a community focused mobile app. It was a mobile app for schools and colleges to have their alumni communities, kind of create a landing page, a space for students and alumni for each institution. They could connect with each other, look for opportunities, do AMAs and a bunch of things, right? It's funny. It's like life goes in circles. I'm kind of doing something similar now, but the fun fact is that we were using LinkedIn APIs because it was about schools and LinkedIn had the best data. And guess what happened? Someone cut the cord on those APIs, and literally my company's scaling potential, etc. Everything was dependent on LinkedIn data, which is a hard lesson I learned. Took a huge kind of toll. But fast forward to now, is one of the strongest reasons I believe about building an open social or an open kind of network platform, right? Whether it's crypto for money reels or it's social networks where you cannot be constrained and monetized by just a few gatekeepers. So yeah, excited to kind of be going deep and building again something in social. And I think one of the key things is uh, I I think curation. I think there's a lot of problems on the internet today, and maybe I jump to the solution, which is kind of curation. But I think there's so much slop, there's so much spam, there's so much shadow banning happening everywhere. Platforms which have distribution, have network effects, are making the most advantage, taking advantage of it, are making still the most money, are keeping people hooked. So we do need alternative solutions, right? We do need not just form factors, but business models on the internet. So I think that's kind of where my kind of, optimism and hope for Farcaster is. And one of the ways to kind of take a stab at it is to try and build a net new kind of experience for folks now with the Farcaster app. You can see it's like, hey, you can come for an all-in platform. You can build many apps. You can transact on the feed. I think that's a great kind of new design space. But I think one of the things personally that I've spent a lot of time in the past year or so is with communities and specifically with Farcaster channels. How can we allow communities to emerge, great content to be curated across communities, and help people who are creating good content also earn or monetize from their content, not just a few platforms. So obviously there's a bunch of cool experiments Zora's doing, Rodeo's doing. So we're building Cura now. which is kind of giving supercharging communities or a communities first approach, not an algo first approach, but a
Right.
communities first. Communities should be the algo. That's kind of the whole idea of curation, right? So yeah, excited about that. That's kind of the top of mind thing for us in the past few days. Obviously, it uses OpenRank, this which is kind of the underlying infrastructure that we've built over the past couple of years or more, and we're now trying to go and dog food that infra and build at the app layer. We were really an infra company or platform in the past few years. We still have that, but we're now building apps on top. So yeah, that's just a bit of context, loosely held.
No, I appreciate it. And I think, this is what's so interesting with all of the founders that I've been able to speak to on the show. And it's so great that people get the opportunity to meet the founder and the people behind it, because I think everyone knows at this point, if they're on Farcaster, and this is not to pander, but I think they know what Cura is. They've interacted with it in some sense. They've, at the minimum, seen the logo somewhere, and I think this is the beauty of like what I'm trying to incorporate here is like give you the opportunity to speak on the subjects that you want. It doesn't just have to be Cura. Of course, we can talk about all of the great things that they're doing, but I think even more so, the thing that I'm curious about is the inside look of someone that's building Cura, of like how you see the direction of Farcaster going, right? Like how important are channels to you, not just as like a builder around channels as like the Cura founder, but also like how important are channels to you as the individual, the end user?
Right, that's a great question. And I think before even chatting about Cura, kind of the solution, I want to probably talk about the problem and organically, like
Please, yeah.
what is the pain point that we feel with channels? Should channels even exist today, right? And I think one of the things, just going back in time when channels did get started, there's a lot of excitement, and I think the excitement was for people to find their own kind of interests in topics and find cool people who also share the same interest in topic and find great content, right? Really couple of things which was exciting, like, hey, I could go and join the football channel. I personally am, I like soccer or football, and I joined the football channel and maybe the food channel. I'm a foodie at heart. A lot of people on Farcaster, when I'm posting about crypto or meta, they don't know about me as a foodie, right? But I would go and be that my foodie version in that channel, right? Even though I posted a couple of times, but I was lurking on the food channel. I was seeing what are people posting. So that was kind of fun. So it gave a little bit of a Reddit kind of vibe, right? You can lurk, you can find your interesting kind of topics and areas, and it was fun. It was nice. It what also I started to realize when I talked to a few people who were power users of channels is that that was one of the probably most probable ways to get noticed as a new user, right? You go, you if you just post in the like in just in the home feed, maybe you'll need a few people to lift you up, which means you need a few people who are either looking at your replies or a few people who you know from before, IRL, and they're gonna like boost you up, and then you'll be noticed, right? But outside of that, how do you get noticed? And you go into a smaller space, a cozy corner per se, which I think was a great framing when it kind of started. And you would find people who you won't even know IRL or even URL first time you'll know, but they'll attach with you because of the topic or the interest or the channel theme, right? So I think it was a pretty powerful construct. And then, of course, you see a lot of people using channels for deeper engagement, deeper conversations around events. Like you can see the NBA channel or the politics channel going alive around events, right? Whether it's elections or it's like a playoff game and stuff like that. So I think there is a lot of cool value to be derived from channels, and I think one of the things that we've seen over time is that there's this conundrum on Farcaster, the app today, is channels seem to be great for retention. Like once you're a power user for Caster, you need deeper hooks to engage, and channels are great. But I think the counterpoint that I wanted to make was that channels are not just for engagement, they can be great for growth because also your new users need some place to come to. It's not just in one single massive feed. People come because their friends onboard them or they're interested in a topic, right? And you want to keep them going. You want people to actually, from word of mouth, bring more people in? And how do you kind of, so channels are a big Lego in my opinion for that, but we haven't explored them that way. And I think that's kind of now coming to the point of, hey, there's something cool with channels, but they're not tapped fully. They're a little bit more like a Reddit kind of or a Discord kind of form factor than a Twitter kind of form factor, a follower graph. So we need to have like a full blown experimentation on that front. Farcaster app alone is doing a great job in building the ecosystem, plus focusing on that app. But I think someone has to go and run with channels. And of course, I'm making a strong case for myself. Kind of,
It's like an election. It's like you're running a campaign right now. Hi, I'm
yeah,
Sahil, and
I
like I
am.
need,
And
yeah, no, of course.
it
And you heard
feels
me
like
speak the other day on that
it
call.
should.
Like,
But
I
that's the
said
thing.
it.
Yes, it
I
should.
basic, but yeah, no, I think look, Sahil, the reality is if I'm sitting in the Merkel team seat and I'm seeing, and this is just, I speak freely. I try my best to speak freely, but like if I'm putting myself in their shoes, right? And this is not to be controversial, but there are pressures that they are facing that I do not think the community can comprehend, right? They have so much pressure from outside, people, for example, like venture capital firms, the funds that provided them the capital to scale and compete with legacy social media places. That's hard as shit, right? And if I'm there and I have that type of pressure, I'm trying to deliver to the stakeholders, but additionally, the conundrum there is I need to deliver for them and keep my word that I'm going to scale into this next big thing. Simultaneously, I need to retain the users, keep the quality, and make sure that their user experience is great. So it's this chicken and the egg situation where it's like, if I don't do this for the VCs and the money, like then I'm not going to receive funding in later stages when I need it to continue to build. Simultaneously, if I don't deliver on the things that the users are complaining about, I'm not going to have any retention. I'm not going to retain any of my power users. They're going to go somewhere else. So like, what do I do? And I think the approach that they're taking right now is actually really sound in that there's no reason why they can't. Let's say, and I'm going down this line of like, let's say channels is gone, right? Let's say channels disappears. Now what? Okay, Sahil, you step up and you offer this ability to take on the channel's responsibility. That's outsourced to you. If you put transparently, if you pull that off correctly, oh my gosh, like it's a victory, right? It's going to be a challenge ahead, but if you do that, that's great. And then as you're doing that, and as you're building out the things that the Merkel team doesn't have the resources to build out, and you're able to take on the, responsibility of talking to all of these channel leaders, these power users, and say, you've got to trust me. I'm going to build this out and give it the attention that it needs that they don't have the ability to handle right now. If you're able to deliver on that, everyone's happy and everyone wins, because who's to say that the Merkel team can't just acquire you or bring you back into the Farcaster ecosystem at a later date? Not to give too much alpha, but like, and not to just like, I'm just kind of reading between the lines, and not to put you in a position where you have to say yes or no, or that's even what the long-term vision is of this. But that's where I'm at, and that's what I'm thinking about. And you don't need to answer any of that, but all I'm saying is, for the people that are out there that are like, this is so bad for channels, this is so bad for the community, like why would we bring this off? If we bring channels off and put it on a separate third party, that's like more clicks for the people that are being onboarded. What the heck? Like, everyone just needs to take a deep breath, everyone needs to chill out, and we've got to trust the community that's around it. You've been here longer than I have, that's for sure. But I also know that you've been here long enough to build up a reputation, to have a true like passion and care for the Farcaster community. You're doing everything in your power to like build that ecosystem up, make it a better user experience. And you've also taken the time, which I really appreciate, to have people on your show, to have people on like a call to just say, what do we want to do? You don't have to do that, but you're doing it because you care. So again, just want that to be there on the record. That's how I'm looking at this. I think it's really awesome what you're doing, and I am voting for Sahil for president.
No, I think thanks. Those were some good, candid, loosely packed, candid thoughts. But I think so. Here's a few things, right? I think you got to give credit where it's as a part of the ecosystem, right? I think one thing which is definitely true is that Merkel's built a good protocol. I'm not talking just about the Farcaster app. I'm
Of
actually talking
course.
about the protocol, right? If I were to build a new social app, I would want to see, hey, which is a credibly neutral, developer-friendly, open protocol, and I think Farcaster protocol is great. That's why we're still building here, right? I also think that to your point of pressure and focus and prioritization is true, and I think it's visible that you have to prioritize to succeed. But also, I think that that is exactly the reason that Merkle should prioritize the Farcaster app, whatever's best for that, remove whatever's not adding to making that grow or become
And to
successful.
clarify, sorry to cut you off, Sahil, but to clarify priorities here, because I don't think I did, Dan has been pretty outspoken about prioritizing daily active users, getting new users. That's the goal. Like, how do we scale that massively? And to his logic and his thought process here, Channels is not doing that to drive user growth. Okay, so I can't allocate resources to something that isn't working well. So that is being potentially offshored. I just wanted to
And
clarify
I
that.
actually think
Smart.
that's a great idea. I think that's
But he's a
smart
founder,
because
he's a business person.
I also don't see Farcaster app succeeding scaling as like managing channels and mini apps and the
Yeah.
Twitter form factor, right? That's just too many things to focus on. So I think it's actually smart to say, hey, channels are not priority for the Farcaster app. Hence, let's figure out how we can enshrine some minimal version of channels so that any third party developer can go, or many third party developers can go and build around that primitive, right? And I think that with that you kill two birds with one stone. A, you get to focus on whatever you have to. B, someone else is actually trying to build, do something about it. There's third party innovation happening. And guess what? Everyone has a shared goal: increase the DAUs on the Farcaster protocol. Everyone who's using channels should have an FID. I want hundreds of thousands of daily active users in the near term coming for communities, coming for channels to Farcaster without knowing that they have to enter Farcaster or Coinbase wallet, or they just have a landing page for their own community, right? And I think that is kind of the shared goal for all of us. And all of us are taking stabs from different form factors or different kind of value propositions for end users, and that's great. So I think, and we are fully focused on communities or channels, right? So we can do probably justice to that. Hopefully, give it a good shot. Farcaster can give a shot of making sure the Hero app, the Farcaster app, is doing great on the protocol. There's buzzing mini app developer ecosystem, and that's fine. So I think that's my kind of my interpretation of Dan when he says, "Hey, Charles." I see two sides of the coin. One is I see the frustration of the channel builder, a channel mod, a channel user who's like, "Hey, our channel's going away. We spend so much time." And then on the other side, I think on the other point of view, it's actually breaking them free to go and actually do much more than what can be done on the real estate today on Farcaster apps, or even the protocol, right? So I think it's all kind of we're right now somewhere in the weeds trying to make sense of it and figure it and unpack this. And hopefully my hope and goal is that if we can figure that out, then we can really support communities and channels. And I think it's almost for my optimistic thinking here is that on Farcaster protocol you can have a Twitter like form factor, you can have a super app like form factor, you can have a Reddit like form factor, you can have an Instagram like form factor on Farcaster protocol. And I think if you can use your username at Sahil or F name across Twitter, across Insta, across Reddit, have a shared graph
Use the
on the
social graph.
protocol.
We need other apps that are being built on the social graph, in my humble opinion. And if we have integration that is seamless, again, at the end of the day, what is the goal here, for me at least? And I think it's aligned with you. My goal is to bring people on chain in a very like effective, self-sovereign, like all of the values that blockchain offers an individual. That's what I want. And I think what Dan has built and V has built and the whole Merkle team has built are building is a safe haven almost. Like they have the ability of building, like this protocol can really exist as exactly what you described. You have your FID. If we get end users and we all agree that this protocol is the one that is going to host and bring people on chain, then we should be open to the idea of having these apps that are being built on the Farcaster protocol, right? That to me, they're doing it in a secure way. They're doing things so far the right way. Why not allow for other people to venture out? And it's almost like, if Cura is able to adopt the chain, not to get ahead of myself here, Sahil, or put you on the spot, but if Cura is able to adopt this, you could be like a catalyst of really building out this successful app built on like that a lot of users are going to be adopting right away. You could be pioneering a lot for this, like, where's the next protocol, or excuse me, the next app that's being built that's just as successful as that, right? So long-winded, maybe stupid, but that's just how I'm seeing this as a net positive for the
No, we
community.
have to. You're right, and your articulation is very aligned with how I see it too. Of course, there's a long way to go. Of course, there's a lot of experimentation as a part of the process to get there. But I think those are constants. Like you have to bake in for iteration, you have to bake in for trying different things, and I think that's what we're all here for as builders. It's a high density of builders in any other crypto ecosystem. I'm talking like Farcaster. So I think we'll get it right. We just have to kind of, and I think this is kind of the only critical piece which I know Dan and Varun hear a lot and think about is, even though they've made a good protocol, even though there's a full focus, a very kind of product pragmatic team trying to get users and DAUs, but the setting other developers free for innovation means you have to manage protocol too, and making sure there's developers can kind of get what they need, and not just mini apps, but the lower level kind of design surface of building alt apps on top of Farcaster protocol. I think that can also, it's like for them they have optionality of other people trying to figure out how to get users onto a protocol. And Coinbase is already a great example, right? Coinbase base wallet is a huge commitment. I think we're moving in that direction. So I think that's the only probably feedback as a developer building in the ecosystem for a while, that we kind of prioritize and unblock some of that.
That's right. And, I think for me, I'm a bit naive when it comes to the back end stuff. I do not come from that space, but the vision that I have that I hope is like, and this is where Cura is a great example of starting out as a mini app. I would assume, you're in the mini app frames like segment. You've been able to scale. You create your own app. You then exist on the Farcaster protocol. I think if you're able to start showcasing that development, it's going to start giving motivation to other developers and other founders to like truly believe in the Farcaster ecosystem and the protocol that's there right now. So yeah, I'm all for it. I'm really excited, and I hope it can be pulled off. Again, it's no secret. I think the thing that people are most concerned with is like, what is the integration going to look like? How are we going to be able to pull this off as a community? Because it takes a tribe. It's not just you and Chal and the rest of the Cura team that's pulling this off. Like, it's the whole community has to be able to help you too, which I think you're in the right space for. Anytime I meet a founder or a developer that needs help, they're getting it. The community's super receptive. I think you've experienced that too.
Yeah, and honestly, I think it's actually very positive and cool to build with community, and it's not just like lip service. It's like, hey, you're building products for users. You got to understand, hey, are you feeling the same problem? Are they really feeling a problem? Are you imposing your solution onto them? What do they want? And just getting their feedback. So I think it's obviously there needs to be intentionality and intuition baked in when you're building a product for users. Sometimes they don't know what they want until you hand it to them. But the other part is also true, is that you build with constant feedback and iteration. Without community, we can't. I mean, the fact that Cura today as a mini app exists only because we built Cura as a channel moderation management tool back in the automod days, right? And we were helping a few channels to manage uh, who can get into the channel, who is spam, how to invite people, right, when the channel changes happen. And then we suddenly started working with 200-300 channel mods, and we realized, okay, this is the pain point. They want to know how to hide or report people if there's posting slop. They want to probably also reward people every week, just like you have the broadcast rewards leaderboard. Some of the channel owners were actually pretty pioneering and said, hey, I want to actually see who are the top casters in my channel, and I want to reward them some of my hyper subscription revenue. Great, makes sense. It's like, a hey, now you have the tool, you have hyper sub, you can monetize people, you can monetize the content that great people, and attribute and reward people who actually are casters. How do you figure all of these things in a no code fashion, right? And kind of like, hey, this is kind of cool. And then you're like, hey, I also want to see the top cast of my channel. Like, if I want to bring someone onto Farcast, I want to show what books is about. Let me show the top cast in the last 7 days, right? And let me show it off. And then if people like it, they'll join the channel. People won't join because they just see the most recent casts on the channel, right? They won't have any context and stuff like that. So I think all of these things came from community, people who were using this stuff. And we're like, okay, tell us more. Or like, hey, we're seeing the shape and form of how you use this. How can we kind of build a product around it? So I think that is how you have to build products today, where you kind of really get quick feedback loops, and you're iterating faster than your internal brainstorm meetings.
This is really insightful for a number of reasons, but I think the coolest takeaway that I just got from that is the fact that you're building it with the community members in mind, right? Like being thoughtful and intentional about what they need and iterating it with them side by side. That's why I think Cura is finding a lot of success is you're taking that into account. You're not being stubborn, you're not saying my way. You're literally like, give me feedback. And I think that's one thing that's so important for any founder that's out there right now is like, are you coachable? Are you willing to like be a founder that opens themselves up to criticism, and when it's received, are you actually implementing off of that and improving what you're building, and not taking it personally, but rather take it as a compliment? Like, hey, this sucks. I don't like this. It's sometimes really crappy to hear it. It may not be delivered in the best way, but ultimately they're doing it because they care, right? Your community, if they're giving you critical feedback to improve, and it doesn't make you feel good because you messed up, they're doing it because they care. So I think that's awesome that you have that in mind with what you've been building. And that's going to be so important as like this entire community is going into this new, unknown of what's going to happen with channels. So as a channel owner, as someone that is still exploring, because I've only been here for 2 months, I still need to figure out how to
Right.
use Cura. Like that's partially why I really wanted to talk to you today is figuring out how Startup Radar can better moderate, can better reward, can do all of the things that people are doing right now with Cura. And as you know, like as I was saying before the call even started, I got like 3 different things on my plate that are full time. And it's like, how can I compartmentalize? But also a benefit of Cura is like it's no code. It's not like I need to go in the back end and do anything. I just needed to get on a call with you and be like, hey, what can I do to improve this? Like, is there anything that you've seen? Are there just general things that that channel owners like need? Like those are things. So yeah, like if we could talk about that for a second of just like how it doesn't even need to just apply to Startup Radar, but just channel owners in general.
Yeah,
Okay.
so maybe I can give you a quick kind of overview or a one-on-one on Cura, right? And I think fire away any questions that you may have. So there's like two kind of personas to think about. One persona is for a community builder, a channel mod. You need a bunch of things to make sure that you can manage your community, you can curate your community. And the other is actually users who want to be a part of your community, who can find useful content, recommendation of good people, and maybe they can earn money if they're contributing to your community, right? So there's two personas. I think let's start with the moderator. So if you're building a community, you go into Cura. Basically, you add Cura bot to your channel. So it's kind of a bot behind the scenes, which would become a moderator of your channel. And then Cura will kind of the underlying system will do its magic. The real kind of way to think about it is we allow every community to have their own algorithm and to have their own kind of spam system, to have their own feed system, right? Once you have a feed, you can kind of decide what shows up, how's the experience been. And a lot of this is context specific. So whoever the moderators are, and you can also choose a few kind of power badge OG people for your channel. Automatically we set it to the channel mods. So whatever the channel mods engage, that gets a little bit of lift. Whoever they engage with, they get some reputation scores, open rank scores, and then they trickle down to whoever, like your friend. Let's say you engage with my post, I engage with, let's say, Dan's post, and Dan engages with, Varun's post. All of us kind of get some kind of, it's just like page rank. That's how kind of, that's kind of the ranking algorithm for Google search as well. So that's how we craft your own channel specific leaderboard per se, which then is used to create a feed. It's used to create a reward system for your channel. It also can create a spam system. So I'm just kind of, in simple ways describing kind of the underlying backend for each community, right? But as a mod, you actually don't have to worry about any of this. By default, you're a mod. You based on what you engage with or all the mods you add, you start seeing casts in the there's a bunch of feeds. There's a hot feed, there's a top feed. If you spend time on Reddit, it's really like Reddit: hot, top in the last 7 days, top post in the last 30 days, and new, right? And new, so that as a mod, you can go and see new posts from people who are actually joined the channel recently. Maybe they need a boost, they need to be visible. You go and welcome them, you can reward them, you can tip them for a thoughtful cast, and then suddenly, because you engage with them, they'll start showing up in the leaderboard. So
Question,
it
Sahil.
really gives. Yeah.
Um, is your API offered in apps? So not just like, on channels, but can the CuraBot work within mini apps? Is it able to work outside of Farcaster, or is Cura currently only able to work with channels?
It's a great question. So we have a few APIs. So Cura uses OpenRank under the hood. We have OpenRank channel specific ranking and channel specific feed APIs out there for a third party app to use. Cura uses the same plus adds a bit more extra on top of that, which is only available in Cura, right?
Got it.
But your channel specific feeds, channel specific rankings are all available via OpenRank.
Understood.
So yeah. So I think one of the ways to kind of make mod successful is to be able to help them discover who are new users, what is great content, so that you can tip, you can welcome people, you can then suddenly create a more tight kind of cozy corner per se, and you have like a vantage point of who are the top posters, how many casts are happening. So a lot of channel metrics as well you get exposed to. You can mark people as spam. You can unmark people for if they were previously marked as spam. You don't have to wait for a central algo to do that. Of course, we want to make your life easy, so you already have a lot of automatic, spam detection done by OpenRank under the hood, which is based on your own leaderboard, your own moderation system, right? So you don't have to say, "Hey, am I being shadow banned?" No, you control it, right? You control it, but in a kind of not manual way. I think we also learned that people who want to build communities don't want manual 5 hours every day on going through like thousands of posts, marking people, listening to people actually say, "Hey, why did you mark me as spam?" So a few kind of automations here and there kind of make your life easy, and you can do all of that 5 hours work in hopefully 10-20 minutes every day if you want to really build a community, an active cozy corner. So there's a bunch of this, and I think one of the things that, or rather two things which have really gotten a lot of early excitement is one, a leaderboard for every channel, where you figure out who are the top people and you can go and tip them, you can reward them, you can set up a recurring reward system for people who are top casters in your leaderboard. Pretty much what Warpcast or Farcaster app is doing with the rewards system, every week rewarding top casters. You can have that whole entire system for your own channel, and we've seen a bunch of channels actually starting to use that. And I think that the other thing is, as a channel mod or a community builder, you can directly reach out to your community, people who have the Cura app for your channel. and they are following your channel, you can send them notifications. Notifications are the strongest engagement or retention hooks for any social app, right? So imagine you had Startup Radar and you were doing an event in New York City, and you had a bunch of people who are on your channel who maybe are in New York City. You can just send a notification to all your channel folks and say, hey folks, I'm doing this event, this is the cast detail, etc., it's time sensitive, show up, RSVP. You can post that on Farcaster, you can pin that, but how often, how many times, and you can only pin one post, right? So there's a lot of like app specific things, but now as a moderator, you want direct relationship with your community. So notifications directly for a mod to their community are great. It's like announcements on a Discord or a on a Telegram group chat, but now like they're landing as a push notification. That's great versus it being pinned. So I think there's a couple of these kind of power tooling kind of features for community builders which are useful. And on the just very quickly on the user side, it's like you want to find the best content around food, you want to find the best content around Farcaster in the Farcaster channel. You go there, you see the top feed versus scrolling. If especially if that channel has a bunch of casts, right, high volume of content, then you want to make sure that you're seeing the best content from your channel, which is effectively curated by the power users of the channel,
That's
right?
exactly
So you're
right.
not depending on that you're not depending on a third party to say, hey, I can train an LLM to better sort and show casts around food. No, it's like, it's the social graph which is curating it. Hence the kind of whole idea behind curation and Cura. So I think that's kind of cool. You can also build reputation by being on a leaderboard. You can earn money. You can kind of be a part of that cozy corner. You can share, hey, I was on the leaderboard. You can also, when you earn this reputation, maybe you have a stronger say. Maybe you become a moderator after being on the leaderboard for five
Yep,
times. And
that's
guess
right.
what? You can decide that. We don't get to decide that. Every community can have their own kind of policy, their own kind of sovereignty over algo, rules, money, who gets how much, right? Without having to depend on any third party. So yeah, I think that's kind of a little bit about how Cura's taking shape. It's still early. We're still kind of experimenting with some of these features, but at least that's the direction that we want to go
How
in.
long has OpenRank and Cura been around? When did you start it?
So I started OpenRank, bootstrapped it 3 years ago. Like I think more or less 2.5 years, I've been building OpenRank. Cura is almost a year now, but not Cura the app, the tool, the community tool. Cura the app is 2 months old. So we're only like 8 weeks in
You launched it
with kind
literally
of this
right when I
entire.
onboarded. Right when I was onboarded to Farcaster, I saw Cura as an app. So yeah, it's
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah.
If
We've been like bullish. I think we've been bullish on channels for a while, but only in this Feb or March of the earlier this year, we were like, guess what? We have to build a consumer experience around it. It can't just be a tool. We have to give people and not let people expect everything from the Farcaster app to be done right for channels. I think it demands a certain different set of real estate. So let's build that. Let's start as a mini app. We already have a mobile and a web app also, and that's kind of how a lot of the power features will kind of start with a mini app, and then people can spend more time on their own kind of web or mobile experience. So that's kind of where we want to go, and then hopefully once we have a permissionless onboarding of new users, new channels, you can just onboard people directly to startupradar.eth, for example, or and it's a dedicated space on Cura. People can kind of treat it like a subreddit or a Discord server. So yeah, that's kind of where we want to go in the near term.
Love it. No, this is awesome. Sahil, it looks like we're coming up on that time frame. I want to be respectful of your schedule. But yeah, is there anything coming up? Do you have any events, any webinars, anything going on that we can shout out for people to look out for?
Yeah, I mean, if you care about channel, you're running a channel, do join us. We do a bi-weekly, channels community call. So the next one is coming up a week from now, next Wednesday, 10 a.m. Pacific.
What day is
Join
that?
us.
Because right now we're recording and it's Wednesday, June 18th is when we're
That's right.
recording. So I
So
got to make
it's
sure
going to
we
be,
launch it.
yes, it's going to be 25th of June, and then every 2 weeks, thereon, 10 a.m. Pacific time. join in. I think Jeff, you were there for the last one. It was great. You had some great inputs as well. So yeah, that's kind of where you find us. And then try out Cura, give us feedback if you care about channels. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Thanks for having me, Jeff. This was a fun
Sahil, you're
time.
the best. No, I appreciate it. Best of luck with everything with Cura and channels and whatever happens. You have my full support.
Thank you. Appreciate it. All
Awesome.
right, have a good
All
one.
right,
See ya.
cheers. Bye.